Growing up, gym leaders were always the coolest thing to me. Being in charge of a gym, effectively being the bosses of these parts of the Pokemon games, that just seemed like the coolest thing ever to me. And it's been talked about how weird some teams are when they only have 2 Pokemon, like Brock's team, except we get the answer to that in Pokemon Generations. But even then, there's some gym leaders that are just weird with their team makeup. The biggest offender of this is Faulkner in Johto. Pidgeotto? When Hoothoot and Noctowl are literally one route over? That is messed up. So today, I wanted to take a look at all the gym leaders in Kanto and go through what I think would be some nice critiques and changes to their teams to make them more of a challenge in some cases, and in some cases, just giving them more variety. This was definitely inspired by Lumiose trainer Zach's video, even though I didn't agree with all the teams he made, so I wanted to put my own spin on it. Go give his video a watch though for sure. Here's a link in the info card. Brock's team is pretty good at first. Onix and Geodude are a rock-solid team for the beginning of the game. A good first form of a 3-stage evolution, and at the time of Gen 1, a single-form Pokemon with stats a lot higher than all of the bugs you just battled in Viridian Forest. I really wouldn't change this team. They knew what they were doing with it. But if I had to leave him with just 2 Pokemon still, I think I would swap out Onix with Graveler. This could save Onix for a really big surprise down the road and give people a look into what Geodude turns into, as you probably won't evolve your Geodude in Mount Moon or on the route after because Misty's team is waiting for you, and a rock type isn't going to help you there. And speaking of Misty, her team is solid as well, but there's 2 changes I would make to it. I would give her Psyduck instead of Staryu, and then I would throw in Goldeen for good measure with Starmie. This gives her a team of 3, and although one of the trainers in her gym has a Goldeen, I would probably swap that one out with Staryu. This would give you a glimpse into a Pokemon during the gym and then seeing its final Evo with the gym leader. And having Psyduck would tie her into the anime better with this team. Kinda surprised they didn't do this in Yellow. Golduck would be too powerful for a gym this early in the game, and even though it doesn't get any love later in the game, everyone likes Psyduck more than Golduck. Surge's team is another that's pretty solid. I would swap out Pikachu with Magneton and have him lead with Voltorb, with Raichu still being his main. You get to see Magnemite in the gym, and I don't think you'd be quite ready to handle self-destruct from an Electrode at this point in the game, so keeping Voltorb seems like a better play. Raichu is still perfect for this team though. I toyed with the idea of giving him Electabuzz, but strayed away from it at the last minute. Having Electabuzz and Raichu, and even Magneton, would make him a super powerful 3rd gym leader. If he was the 5th gym though, I could definitely see this happening. Jumping to Celadon City, Erika's team is another that's pretty solid and set. That changes after her though, but we can still refine this one a little bit. I wouldn't want to give her an Executor, but Execute would be good with her current team. This would be her lead to give you a base form Pokemon, then lead into Tangela, Gloom instead of Vileplume, and Victreebel. I swapped Gloom and Vileplume because having 2 3rd form grass types could be a little overkill. I had to be really picky with this team, because just like the other 3, there's very few things I would change. But when we hit Koga's team is when I'd really start changing stuff. The Ninja Master's team is great, but he doesn't need repeats. I would actually take away both coughing and wheezing. I'll explain that a little later. He would keep Muck, get Venonat and Venomoth like his yellow team, and I would throw in Golbat to better fit with the anime team. I considered Voltorb here on this team, but that's kind of like an anime-only thing and it doesn't fit the type. And Surge only got a Voltorb. Koga needs the poison type to really double down on being a ninja, which here with poison it's more of an assassin than anything. And I would absolutely get rid of the Drowsy and Hypno in this gym. Like, they look ninja-y, a tiny little bit if you really stretch it, but they don't need to be here. Instead, they belong in Sabrina's gym. Sabrina's yellow team is great because of how it fits with the anime, being the full Abra line. And her red and blue team isn't awful either, but Venomoth is already on Koga's team. We don't need base form Abra, but having Kadabra is great because it can lure you into a false sense of security, not expecting her to have 2 Pokemon in the same line, and then Alakazam still being her main. Mr. Mime is great here because it's not really anywhere else in the game, and with Koga having Venomoth, Hypno would come in and replace it. Some junior trainers in her gym have Drowsy, and then you'd see the final form in the gym leader battle. If you absolutely wanted to give her something else, Slowpoke might be a good lead-off because it doesn't have the psychic typing yet, but always has confusion. I wouldn't jump straight to Slowbro just yet though, because Lorelei gets to keep her Slowbro, just a peek into the future. I came up with 2 ideas for Blaine's team. His team in red and blue is Growlithe, Ponyta, Arcanine, and Rapidash. I would throw in a Magmar onto his team no matter what. Not just to fit in with his anime team, but because Magmar doesn't get any representation anywhere else in the game, other than just random trainer battles. And in yellow he swaps Growlithe and Ponyta with Ninetales, and I would still throw in Magmar here. This gives all the fire types in Gen 1 without the Charmander line and Moltres, and allows his team to be a good endgame challenge. His team is pretty solid otherwise though. Flareon could get worked into this team, but that's not really what I had in mind with it. Now with Giovanni, I'm going to do more than just his gym leader team. I want to do each of his teams that you battle along the way. His first battle in the Rocket Hideout is already a decent team, but could be refined a little bit. Also, I would assume that the Pokemon he has with him aren't super powerful because he's not in his gym. He's kind of just traveling around. I see him taking more and more powerful each time though, because he keeps getting beat by a 10-year-old. His first team would stay the same, have Onix and Kangaskhan, but he should have his Nidorina instead of Rhydon so that you can see it turn into a Nidoqueen in the next battle. So I guess he is keeping some of his team. Keeping with that team of 3 tells you this guy is tough, but not overly threatening for this part of the game. Realizing that he got crushed by a 10-year-old, he brought more firepower with him, and evolved his Nidorino, but this team is going to stay the exact same as it is in the game. Nidorino, Kangaskhan, Rhyhorn, and Nidoqueen. If I had to change it up any, I would add Dugtrio to this team. That way he has a speed demon that can take out some of your team if you're very unprepared for it. And then for the gym battle, there's just one change I would make here. He doesn't need Rhyhorn and Rhydon. His Rhyhorn will evolve, and he'll keep Kangaskhan. No, it's not ground type, but it looks like it's got rocks on its skin. And if you're just expecting to blow through the gym with grass and water types, it can be a wall because of its health stat and decent physical and special defense. I always thought Kangaskhan and the Machop line were weak to water because they look like rock types anyways. I should have known better. And having both Nidos and Dugtrio still round out this team pretty well. I think this would be the definitive version of Giovanni. If you insisted on him having a full team, throw in Persian to fit with the anime. And now, it's time for the Elite Four. I'll cover what changes I'd make to my rival in just a little bit. But wait a second. Let's change up Jesse and James's teams real quick. They're only in Yellow and Let's Go, where they have Coughing, Ekans, and Meowth at the beginning. And they evolve Coughing and Ekans along the way. This is great, but there's at least 2 more that they could be given, and this is with big-time anime inspiration. Give them Lickitung, Victory Bell. Lickitung matches Meowth's normal type, and Victory Bell matches the poison typing. And just 3 Pokemon? Isn't a great team. Now, let's actually hit the Elite Four. Lorelei is a really tricky one, because there's nothing I would change. But I would make one addition. There were only so many ice types in Gen 1, so she has all of the available ones, plus Slowbro. The one addition I would make to her team is to throw Vaporeon on there, just to give the evolutions some love. Lapras, Dugong, Cloyster, and Jinx are perfect for this team. Slowbro still fits in with this too. This is one that they got right. Bruno's team would be largely unchanged as well, but he doesn't need 2 Onixes. Having one is still fine because it fits his character, him being able to tame this giant monster. The Hitmons fit great with Machamp, and then I'd throw in either Primeape or Golem. Golem fits in with using Onix and seems like a fighter, and Primeape is just a straight up fighting type. So that's great right there. There's nothing else I would change. There's no reason for Agatha to have 2 Gengar. I know that they only had 3 ghost types in Gen 1, but I've always pictured Agatha as being the trainer that was capable of taming quote-unquote evil Pokemon. She'd keep Gengar and Haunter, Golbat and Arbok, but then I'd throw in Weezing. Excluding Haunter and Gengar, these are all Pokemon or forms of Pokemon that Team Rocket has used. I feel like she's a hardcore enough character to tame these Pokemon and use them for good to better figure out what Team Rocket might be using them for or something like that. If you really wanted to, you could give her a Beedrill or a Tentacruel for the same reasons. She might as well be Poison-type trainer, not Ghost. But this would get some cool variety in there. Lance's team is like Agatha's, where there were only so many dragons, and I had to stretch for this one. I'd take away one of his Dragonair for a Charizard, but I think that's all you could realistically do. Maybe Onix could work his way in, or maybe Pidgeot because it's a heavy-duty flyer. That's a huge stretch, I'm well aware of that, but that's all I got. Now for the rival. I'm not going to go from the beginning of the game to now like with Giovanni. I'm going to focus on his final team and talk about how small changes could be applied to it. First, let's give him Exeggutor, Gyarados, and Arcanine. This is just like his Gold and Silver team, but that's because whatever starter he picks would end up replacing its same type equivalent. Even though you just fought Gyarados on Lance's team, seeing it here makes it so grass types can't destroy his water typing. If you really wanted it different, Poliwrath would be a good water fighting counter, or whatever fossil you didn't pick would give it a rock water typing. I think Snorlax makes for a better fit on this team than other things, because you aren't gonna fight one in the game, except the ones you encounter in the wild. And if you catch one, it would make sense for your rival to get the other. And if you're unprepared without a fighting type, or are very low on health, Snorlax could absolutely destroy you. Marowak fits better on this team than Rhydon, for sure. Giovanni already had Rhydon, and they swapped it for Sandslash in yellow, but Marowak is cool and just needs more love. Alakazam would get to keep his spot on the team. I know Sabrina has it, but it just has endgame boss feel to it. I'm not really sure that I think this team is better than his normal one, but it's certainly more interesting, and that's mainly what I'm going for. But there's another trainer I want to look at before we finish things off. Professor Oak. He used to be a trainer after all. Apparently, you were supposed to battle him at the end of the original game, but it got cut. His team is going to be very similar to what Satoshi Tajiri's team was in his playthrough of the game all those years ago. Dodrio, Scyther, and Tauros would start it out. I know having 2-part flying types seems weird, and 2-part normal types isn't much better, but these are all varied Pokemon. These get the variety that you don't get from normal gym leaders, and don't see these Pokemon on the teams that often. Kingler would be his water type. He could pick up Jolteon if Blaine gets a Flareon and Lorelei gets Vaporeon. But then for his final Pokemon, I'd throw in Vileplume. I know this was a possible Pokemon listed for Erika's team that I swapped out, but it would round out his team pretty well. And I'm imagining this would be a super beefy team anyways, so it wouldn't really matter the specific team makeup. I'm talking on par with Red's battle in Gold and Silver. And that's gonna do it for Kanto and all of its important trainers. If there's any trainers I forgot, please let me know. I think I got all of them, but I may have missed one or two. I'd definitely like to make another video like this for the rest of the regions, and I think I even have another video that I could put out for Kanto. I'll let y'all know about that one. So let me know what you'd like to see as well. If there's some changes you'd make, tell me about them. I'm just a math teacher after all. Surely you can make a better team than a math teacher. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at CoachMaxYouTube to see updates on videos, and stay on the channel for a little bit. Until next time, see you later.